over on the red side, we have Putin and Amber T, who are RKKA. Over on the blue side, we have Razman and Nandemann, who are Nandemann. And this is Highway to Seoul, as many people have been telling me to say it as, and I've been saying it wrong the whole tournament, but there we go.
Seoul.
Finally, I did it right, apparently. But, are you ready, Val?
I am very ready, yeah.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. So take us through the decks.
Right, well, let's take a look, because I've got a little feeling it might be a little similar, which, unsurprisingly, it is. Razman's using his Commonwealth deck, which we've seen again to great effect, and Nande's using his NATO motorized, which, you know, really is quite a bit of a mold break. I think he's the only one that I've seen apart from, I think, one game with Faust on Hop and Glory, where we've seen a NATO motorized deck, and it's quite nice to see. Putin Amber T going for a slightly different setup this time, with Putin still with the same USSR deck, and Amber T, instead of going for a Eastern Bloc mechanized, he's gone for just a straight standard Eastern Bloc, so he does have all those tanks available to him.
Yeah, I think that's a much better choice on this map. Obviously, Motorshooting, having an abundance of Motorshooting is very useful, but I think on this particular map, which does have a lot of field like engagements, having those heavier tanks that can help from a distance will definitely help out RKK against Nandemann in this one. So what sort of strategies do you expect to come out? Because we saw a pretty unorthodox one in the last one.
We did. I mean, I expect this will be a little more standard. I think we'll see contestation over Golf and Charlie, and again, contesting in Delta and Echo. I think we'll see spread across the board. But we could. I mean, there is always the chance we do see something a little strange, a little surprising. But again, there's not really much you can do, because if you give up one of these bottom sectors, it's not like there's a 2-pointer in the top side. So, I mean, I think we saw, was it August and Tierra, they gave up one of the bottom sectors, I think it was Golf, they gave up and just didn't go to at all. And then even if you take Echo and Delta completely, you're still a neutral points income, because Golf, if it's controlled by the blue team in this case, will neutralize both Delta and Echo. So, this, you know, I mean, that's one of the things I don't really like about this map too much, to be honest, because there's not really too much opportunity to go for some really new and surprising tactics and strategies, just because not too much to gain from doing anything crazy on this map.
Yeah, you make a good point about the conquest points and the fact they only give you like one each. It does mean that you are going to have to spread out your forces, sorry, voice crack, and make sure that you do cover all your bases in Echo, Delta, Golf, or Charlie. And I still think there will be a lot of emphasis on this bottom side. It has tend to be the place where either team has come out on top on this map. And I'm just interested to see exactly where these teams go, because they're both very good teams. I just really would like to know what they think the way of winning on this map is. But let's have a quick look at these units. So over on the blue side, we do have 2 Challenger 2s at the start from Razman. That's quite a big investment into those tanks. I think it's, I guess, the most points he spent on tanks, probably for the whole tournament at the start of the game. Of course, they're going to be covered by some AA, so we do have a Track Rapier Crotal in there. We do have some Hachi Nanashikis. They've got the Leopard 1 Recons, and obviously the M3A2 Bradley CFB, an awesome recon unit. Got the odd SAS squad and SBS squads in the Lynx AH7s, and of course a command infantry squad in an AH7 as well, because those AH7s come in very handy. But over on this red side, we do see quite a lot of helicopters. KA-52 from the start, that could be a threat to some of those AH7s. So that'll be interesting to see if that can push forwards early on and maybe get some radar snipes or kill off some of those helicopters. But is there any heavy tanks over here for Amber T?
I actually don't believe they started with it. I think the heaviest thing they've got is those BVs. These BV1, sorry, which I think are 130 points, are still heavy, but they have spent a lot of money on OSA, 30-point OSAs.
Yeah, I noticed that in the
I
last
think.
game. They definitely had like a lot of AA. Like when RKKA pushed into the top side, like Putin specifically, he had 5 OSAAKs and a Tunguska, which was supporting his push, but his push just like died, and then his AA was completely useless because no planes were used by Nandemann. So it was a bit strange. I mean, obviously, they do have to cover all their bases at the start of the game, but it's just, to me it seems like an overinvestment in AA, which did cost them the initial push on the last map. So maybe the same might happen again this time round.
Well, it did. I mean, we do see some T-72Ss, which are also pretty expensive tanks for MBT, but no super heavies, which is interesting. I think we're definitely gearing up to a very big tank fight around the Delta area, though.
Yeah, it's going to be basically the thing to watch out for in this game is going to be the tank engagements, especially at the start. The Challenger 2s, I think, will rip apart those BVs unless the BVs can maybe get a side shot with their HGMs or something like that. If the HGMs are micro correctly, then we might see the BVs come out on top, because obviously if a Challenger 2 is facing off against a BV, you're probably better off using the HGM anyway, because you're going to match the AP that way.
That's true. That's definitely true. I actually stand correct as well. These are the cheap ones. The BB ones don't even have 80 gems.
Oh, do they not? Okay,
No.
that might be very bad then for those BB ones.
The T-72Ss do have one. They have the Siva missile, which is the same as the BU. But again, a bit interesting. I think personally, I'd rather have, let's say, 2 super heavies instead of 3 kind of heavies. But either way, that's what they decided to do, and we're seeing all these units move out. A much faster deployment, everyone will be glad to see, than last game.
Yeah, there's only about 5
10 minutes.
That one, so that was really, really good. They finally got their act together and made that happen. But the KA-52 here going to get a quick kill onto the cannon, of course. The Gazelle going to go down there. Did actually spot the Mi-24D moving around the bottom side, though, I believe. And he did just ping that out. So that sneaky infantry squad will not do as much damage as it otherwise would, because they will be well aware of it. These Mi-8 MTVs, though, are going to be coming in and dropping off a couple of squads as well. They've actually possibly gone a little bit too far, because the Crotal did get that one hit onto the Mi-8 MTV there. I think they might just be able to land that, though, and get the infantry out in time.
They might do. We see Nando bringing a ton of infantry in, and that's hopefully for him going to clear out these Mudstralky 9s, or Gornstralky 9s. I was about to say, why would you bring Mudstralky in?
Well, the Mi-8 MTV there actually taking out the Aslav 25, and it looks like the Aslav 25 might go down on the top side just below Echo, since the reserve Schutzen are in range of that. The Lynx AH7, let's see if that can do any damage to these infantry squads. Looks like it was targeting the APC, not necessarily the best choice just yet. But engagement starting to take place. The Leka Pohota are getting hit very hard. And down in this bottom side. And the Gornostrelki now moving into position to try and snipe some of these units moving forwards. But there's a few Ranger squads coming in from Nandemann. They should have a good chance of spotting this infantry and the other units moving from Gulf. But Gulf's actually pretty lightly defended at the moment, whilst Nandemann has a lot of troops down there. So maybe we will see an advantage for Nandemann to come from that.
They might do. We did. I think you might have missed a Su-25 going down. Pretty tragically missing all of its rockets on the Bradley Recon that Nando has. But these T-64 BB1s, they're going to be a bit more effective in this bottom sectors, because these bottom sectors, should I say, because you're generally going to be in gun range. Not to mention, Nande has no tanks because he's motorized. Well, at least no tanks deployed, should I say.
Well, he's got a couple of Leopard 1s in there, so they could maybe help out.
Not deployed though, just in his deck.
No, he's definitely got the Leopard 1s.
Oh, he does have one.
He's got one on the top side of Charlie, and then there's another one by the highway still, and then he's also got the M3A2 Bradley, which should have a decent time against the BB1. Although if it gets into the gun range, then that is going to be definitely a lot less effective. It just depends on whether it gets spotted or not. The Rangers have, of course, discovered the Gornostrelki, like I predicted they would. And in this top side, I believe the Spetsnaz group cleaned up a squad there. The Hornet coming in. That is going to probably be shot down by the Tunguska M and the Yak 141. Looks like that was brought in to maybe take out the BV1s in the open. The Block 15 coming in to try and get a responding kill onto the Yak 141. But is not going to be able to, as the Yak does get out alive. Eurofighter Typhoon also brought in by Razman, so a nice big investment in air supremacy at the start of this game now. Looks like both teams...
Take out this K-52 though, it's moving towards.
Yeah, both teams prioritising that, but let's see if it can get this K-52 kill, that would be quite nice. Not going to have enough time to get a second infrared on target though. Going to have to be careful flying over this Tunguska M. Looks like it's lost line of sight. So up in this middle, Razman has got quite a nice sort of position in Delta. Got Commandos 90 in the top tree line, Canadian Rifles in the bottom, and the Challenger 2 and the Stormer HVM in between. Another Challenger 2 backing off at the moment. In this top side, Echo, we've got the Canadian Rifles 85 with the TH495s moving forwards. They're pretty uncontested up there as well. A lot of recon being brought in for Amber T. Looks like he neglected that at the start, and it's really affecting his ability to push into Echo at the moment. And down in Gulf, well, there's no recon at all other than the Spetsnaz Guru in the top side and maybe behind Charlie as well. But I mean, in the center part of Charlie, he has no information about what is there. And you can see these TH495s have snuck through the top side of Gulf. And if there was a command vehicle or command infantry in Gulf right now, that probably would have been taken out.
It probably would have, yeah. And we have seen actually Nando do very well. One of these BB1s has gone down, which is very scary. A Eurofighter Typhoon coming in and trading with a Yak 141, shall I say. Which is not very good for Razman, unfortunately.
I think you're getting ahead of me again.
Am I getting ahead of you again?
Yeah.
It sounded a little bit like it. What time are you on?
I'm on 11:35. But the Challenger 2s continuing their engagement in the centre. The ASUs being taken out. And we are going to see both of them die. So there goes some more fire support from RKKA. But they do maintain their hold with the Leka Pahota on their left side town below Echo, which is quite important. It's going to stop these Challenger 2s from moving too far up because they'll have to be scared of the side shots. Speaking of side shots, the Seria 30 comes in and gets one onto a Challenger 2, and that's going to go down. Wonderful kill there, especially considering the Seria got out alive.
Yeah, really nice pick-off, and you know, this really is one of the things that can turn the tide, because those two Challenger 2s were really beating up that 3-stack. I mean, I've got to question why he's got his T-72s in a 3-stack. But either way, he does have a 3-stack of T-72Ss.
Oh, look at Gulf. The Rangers moving forwards, killing off the OSAs for free. And that is not very nice. His T-80B's a little late there to stop that from happening. And the MI-24D's moving over. That 12.7mm gun there is going to absolutely wreck that Ranger squad if it can get into line of sight. And the T-80B's opening up there as well with their 4HE power, means that squad is long gone. In the centre, we do see a small amount of engagement. This isn't as exciting as the last game, but still stuff happening all over the map. The Mi-24D is going to go down to a Crotal at Charlie. T-80B's advancing and going to take out one of the Crotals. The Spetsnaz Gru have been spotted at the top side of Charlie, and looks like they've got an F-16A Block 15 hanging around the bottom side. Looks like it could get a kill onto the Seria 30 if the Seria 30 stays around too long, because the Tunguska's dead at Gulf, and only one OSA.
Ooh, there we go.
Oh, there to try and save that, but the Block 15 going to get away there.
That was very close. I mean, the OSA, I believe, if it crits, it can actually kill in one shot, but either way, it does manage to save that. And we see some more action in the middle where this Challenger 2 is really trying to keep these T-72Ss at a decent standoff range, because as long as the Challenger 2 can engage from a max range sort of distance, it'll always have the advantage, because the T-72s have to move forward to actually pen the tank.
Yeah, these Eric squads engaging the reserve shoots, and you can see just how effective they can be against infantry there. Look at that, just wrecked both those squads of reserve shoots and no problemo. And some more reserve shoots and heading towards the Challenger 2 now, but they're being gunned down by the XA-180s. That wreckage squad in the bottom side of Delta is actually doing a really good job of revealing a lot of these units.
It really is, even enough for these Ericsons to sort of bite back a little bit at the fire support. But in this bottom side, we see a lovely push coming in from Nande. Gonna lose this Leopard 1V. Well, actually, maybe not. It depends if Putin actually does decide to. There we go. Yeah, he should go down.
Yeah, the TATB did pick that off eventually. We are going to see the rest of the units slowly creeping into Gulf. It hasn't been properly reinforced yet. Of course, they did bring the tanks over, but this M3A2 Bradley going to pick off the snipe there. Pretty short range. You can see Nandemann actually turned off the Bushmaster cannon there to force the Bradley to use that APC, and the Jaguar is going to come in, pick off the OBR, and now it's going to be SASR against Spetsnaz in the open here. He needs to get that Bradley actually into the open now, I think, to maybe provide some fire support, or those Spetsnaz could do a serious amount of damage to the infantry.
Well, they definitely can. I mean, Spetsnaz, we said a few times, they're not the most cost-effective units, actually, unfortunately, for the Spetsnaz, but if you have them in an open field against any other infantry unit, they will destroy them most of the time. Yeah,
so Putin's creeping up the Spetsnaz into napalm launcher range of the SASR, and as soon as they open up, the SASR are going to be running into hell, because that is not an engagement you want to make. And my god, it's going to be a massacre.
Oh, the rocket comes in there, and Nande may actually save the squad if he's lucky. But again, even with these SAS causing a bit, not SAS, sorry, with the Spetsnaz causing a bit of trouble, Nande still has a really commanding position here, and even the rest of the map, they've managed to get a hold over Echo, and then Nandemann, that is, and Delta is still, I'd say, still going in the blue team's favour.
Yeah, it seems that like there's just a series of small skirmishes that are coming out for like on Nandemann's sort of advantage, you know. They're taking advantage of these small skirmishes and their superior micro, it seems, in order to gain an advantage on the map positionally, and it's really paid off on the bottom at Gulf. But I'm surprised they haven't brought in a command for Charlie yet. Of course, they are probably using all the points to make sure that they maintain their lead, and that's something that you need to be aware of. But they're making good use of these units to get a lot of positional advantage, and I guess that's as much as they need right now in order to make sure they win the game later on with conquest points.
That's definitely true. I mean, speaking of kind of miss micro, I've got to say Amber T, I'm not a fan of having 3 stacks of T-72Ss. He still hasn't split those up, and you know, you can't, you know, if you're using ASUs or BMP1s, you can afford to do that, but with expensive T-72Ss, 125 points each, not quite sure I think that's the best use of your tanks there.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a, I don't know, it seems like just such a slow game. Just we're watching just units die quite easily on both, like, this Challenger 2 just picked up one of those T-72s, no problem at all. And now the T-72 is going to be forced to move back. That small engagement's finished. Already Amber T, I don't know why he's using so many of these reserve shoots, and they're just really not paying off. Now we see a Lynx 3 coming in, going to get some free kills onto these ASU 85s. These ROMs just sitting at the back of that forest, it's such a bad mistake. I mean, if you move them forwards, then maybe what would happen is they get hit by the Challenger 2, but you can't just let a Lynx 3 fly forwards like that and get some free kills. That was a free 110 points for those ROMs if he got them into range or line of sight.
It definitely was. That's just, again, a bit of a misplay, I think, and I think that's, you know, maybe the pressure of losing the last game is really getting to them. I mean, Amber T is really mismicroing those T-72Ss. He finally splits them, now that one's damaged, but it's going to die anyway to the Canadian rifles and that CT Nexus.
Yeah, and that's the last T-72, they're going to have to back away from that squad as it does kill it, but the Mex is getting the first shot, going to do a nice amount of damage there. on this bottom side. Tunguska did kill a Jaguar, which was an okay pickup, but not going to help them get anywhere back or anywhere near taking back Golf.
Well, maybe not immediately, but the Spetsnaz crew did just kill off a Crotal, so that's a reasonably nice pick off there too. But again, I just don't think it's enough. I think they've just really been out-microed. It's not even a case of being strategically kind of pushed really hard in one area, because I mean, Nandemann and Putin both put a very similar amount of points into Charlie and Golf, and Nande's just come off with an incredibly strong lead right now.
Yeah, and with Nandemannite holding Golf very well, it's basically allowing him to reinforce all the way up to Golf now, because he can use the highway. There's no pressure onto Delta, so he can literally fast move from spawn all the way to where that bridge is, jump onto the other road, come straight down into Golf, and he can just reinforce just as quickly as the red side can now. And that's allowing him to maintain his position in Golf against Putin, who's fighting back now with these VDV-90, but they're getting picked off by the Leopard 1s and the Hachinani Shiki there. They're going to be followed up by some Stormers, which will try and take on the Spetsnaz, but with the fire support that should absolutely be fine. You can see these Saxons doing exactly what I was saying, moving up, fast moving up the road, jumping onto the next road by that bridge, coming straight down to reinforce, no time at all. And just by holding a positional advantage on this map at the moment, the lead that Nandemann has is becoming pretty apparent.
It really is, and you know, obviously, if you're behind, it can be quite important to try and get a CV into a sector just to try and stem the bleeding. But if no one's got any CVs in, just spend as much as you can on forcing the issue, on getting complete control. Because right now, Razman has 2 Challenger 2s in mid. He's got all these air squads, all this infantry. Look at what Amber T has. He has 1 T-72S, some moat shoots, and a BMP-1 and some ROMs. That's absolutely nothing.
Well, I think they need to consolidate and make a strong push. But because of the map being the way it is, and we were saying this at the start, where they're all 1-point sectors, making a strong concerted push as a team is actually pretty hard to do without, neglecting other parts of the map. And doing that on this particular map is a very bad idea. So they're having to spread out their forces. They're being forced to, just by the nature of the map. And it's not paying off at all at the moment. And slowly, what's going to happen is Nandemann will start to bring in commands, and they will just win the game outright in that way. I mean, if they don't win anyway, because they're just making so much ground, especially in the center at the moment. Look at this. Razman's coming in with the M113A1s with the Commandos 90, and they're not even getting picked off before they jump out. They've come into range of the T-72S, no problem at all. And we've got this Humvee 2 on the other side of the highway, sniping some of the fire support. And that T-72S is now limping away with 1 health. The Commandos 90 still making loads of ground with help of the Challenger 2 and the Centurion ABRE. So Amity has to be really careful that he doesn't lose so much ground that Razman and Nandemann end up pushing through to Foxtrot.
Well, that's the way it's looking right now, because I mean, they're finally bringing a Twardy and a super heavy, but I feel like that's just too little too late, because these Challenger 2s have done such a good job, even with losing one of them to that Syria. And these T-72Ss, especially considering I think they were quite mismicroed, being in a stack of 3 as well, they just can't do anything. They literally can't do anything to stop these Challenger 2s.
So Nandemann in Gulf actually ran down those Spetsnaz squads with the Leopard 1s, but Putin following up the Spetsnaz with VDV-90 and the BMP-Ts there. And that's going to be enough to take out both those Leopard 1s on the top side of Gulf. So, Nandemann got a bit overzealous down there and lost those. But it's not really going to give back any position into Gulf at the moment, since the Fusiliers are still there to stop the enemies for a little while. And Lynx H7 is coming up. Maybe we'll be able to get some rockets onto the VDV-90. That would be really nice.
It is. We see 2 CVs now coming in, or 3 CVs even. This is a big investment from Nandemann in Charlie, Delta, and Echo. And if they get all these CVs in, they're going to have a +3 points lead, which is going to tick up very quickly. And again, it's like we said, the red team, I just don't believe that they can actually bear the points for CVs. I mean, they'll have to, because ticking -3 is devastatingly bad to come back from, but really, this is not a nice position to be in.
SU-25K coming in the centre. Doesn't have line of sight on the Challenger 2. There's another Challenger 2 at the bottom side. All the weapons turned off at the moment. Razman does not want those to reveal themselves by firing their machine guns. So, yeah, he's just basically completely stopped that from happening, although the Challenger 2 being revealed for a second there. And one of the missiles going to be coming in, dealing a lot of damage in the front armour. But the Challenger 2 did not go down. And with the Eric squads taking out the last forces on the left side, town below Echo, looks like the Challenger 2 should be able to move across in the open without being spotted. The Track Rapier FSAs and the Storm HVM, can they get this kill? They fired a lot of missiles so far, and my god, how did that get away with that? SU-25K I just dodged like all those missiles. That was incredible.
Is this a pilot from Putin's SU-27M? Because I think very lucky. That's how I'd describe that. But I mean, credit where credit's due. Putin is pushing back reasonably well into Gulf, but again, it's one of those things. He can push here as much as he likes, but it's only ever going to neutralize the Charlie lead. So it's only going to take 1 point off the already +3 gain for Nandemann.
Yeah. So finally, the commands did move into the sectors. I think investing that many points at the same time into command units has allowed this bottom side to be lost in Gulf, due to the fact, like, if they had like 300 points worth of units in Gulf instead of those CVs, they would have been able to hold Gulf quite convincingly, I feel. But because they've neglected that in order to get this conquest lead, I think that's a perfectly a good sacrifice. They do have the hold on both of the Echo and Delta, and it doesn't look like Amity is going to be able to do much to come back from that at the moment. This Lynx AH7, I just keep seeing Lynx AH7s take out entire squads of infantry, and it's so horrible when you actually like think about it, because these Lynx AH7s, they cost 30 points, and every time they're taking out like a Spetsnaz squad or a Spetsnaz Gru squad or like a VDB-90 squad, that's just making those Lynx AH7s so much more cost efficient throughout this game. And it's just, they're such disgusting units. It's the same way you could use like an MI-17 or an MI-8 MTV. But over at the back here we do have a cannon moving around to the backside of Foxtrot. That will have been spotted, I think, by the Urals on the road here, but the Urals are going to get harassed by that autocannon and blown up. There goes the supply. That's a few nice kills
they see the
for
BU,
the Nandemann.
It's a very nice spot, and knocking out that supply, it doesn't seem quite as important, but that's super important now for Nandemann, because that stops the Tungus Graham in the bottom side from getting its infrared missiles back. That stops the Salamandra being resupplied. And yeah, very, very, very bad loss there for Amity and Putin.
Yeah, so down here, like you were saying, Tungus Graham, TATB needs repair. It's only on 1 health. The Gazelle cannon has been caught up to, though, by the MI-24D and the KA-52. So that's going to get rid of that cannon. But I can't help but think that that KA-52 was invested into just to kill that cannon. And I don't actually think that's worth it, especially considering the KA-52 is not going to be the most useful if they want to use it to push into Charlie, which looks like they're going to be using that down there in Gulf to try and get some exceptional recon. But what's that going to do? There's no radar AA down here for them to attack with that. There's no helicopters in the area other than maybe the couple Lynx AH7s there. Does that make a KA-52 worth it? Probably not. So what Nandemann have really done by putting that command or that cannon around the back of the map there, they forced Putin to invest into a KA-52, and they destroyed 4 trucks with supply, and that's left Putin having to wait in order to make his push into Charlie, which has allowed Razman and Nandemann to reinforce this. You can see Razman coming up with a Challenger 1 Mark 1 to help out down there. In the centre, though, a few engagements going on. Motschützen trying to make a small push, MI-35 at the backside. trying to do as much damage to the APCs and fire support as possible. Su-27M dodging tons of trap rapier FSA missiles and getting out alive, of course. Stormers and XA-180s bumping into some VDV-90, but I'm pretty sure the Stormers might actually come out on top there, as the VDV-90 will get stunned. So the +2 lead now continuing for Nandemann, since RKKA did finally get a UAZ into Gulf, and apologies guys for my camera continuously zooming into these block 15s. It's really, really annoying. For some reason, whenever those block 15s come out, my camera just wants to focus in on them. Maybe I should let it, since they are making a very nice air display at the moment.
They are. I mean, if some of you didn't know, Vulcan is well, you had a history with some Battlefield 2, I believe, or Battlefield 3 as well, air display videos, didn't you? So.
Yep, I was a stunter in Battlefield 2.
A stunter, yeah.
And Battlefield
really
3.
Cool.
But either way, we have an M33 challenging a Challenger 2 in the open here. The M35 doesn't actually have any Kokon missiles left, so Challenger 2 is perfectly fine. We'll just reverse until that optical failure is gone. Su-25K being absolutely baited, although it does take out the Stormer HPM. The Trap Rapier FSAs get on target though at the same time, and yeah, the Su-25 does go down. So I mean, it was a trade, but Su-25 for a Stormer, not quite worth it in my opinion. And
not to mention the MI-35,
yeah,
that's
the
85 points in
went
itself.
down. So this is just RKKA bleeding points here. Did they lose the Ka-52? No, it's just sitting at the backside between Hotel and Goal. What is that even doing? What is that Ka-52 achieving right now? It was like an almost pointless buy. It's actually ridiculous.
It was a pointless buy, to be honest. It really was.
So what can RKKA do now? It looks like what's happened in the last game has happened again. Nandemann has just killed too many of RKKA's units, and now RKKA doesn't have enough to push back. So what can they do about that?
I mean, honestly, this is a very bad position, because right now, if I were RKKA, I would try and mass up and push into Charlie while harassing and trying to defend the Delta Echo, you know, trying not to lose this forest in Delta. But if you invest into Charlie, that's going to take a lot of stuff to take. And, you know, I mean, could they do it with what they have now? Potentially. They do have a BU in this bottom sector in Gulf, but again, very dangerous, very risky to attack into the unknown like this, into all of these. You know, the Bradley Recon with that TOW 2 will massacre these tanks coming through, not to mention the Jaguar GR1A circling above. And, you know, I feel like this game, to be honest, this game is already lost, I feel, for RKK, and it's one of those ones where you look at the map and it doesn't look like it's too bad, but you pay a bit more attention and you realise that they can't make any ground that will neutralise them and give them a points lead without completely giving up other sides. They can't push into Delta at all. And will this Su-10, is it going to go down? Oh, it finally goes down, the Su-27M. Obviously, rookie pilots in those, not the same grizzled veteran we saw from earlier in the tournament, but yeah, it's one of those situations where really you can't do that much as the red team. All you can do is just try and push back using micro skill, because, you know, once you get to this point of the game, when you lose the opening so convincingly, I think, then you just can't come back. I mean, obviously it's technically possible, but yeah, I think it would require misplay and mistake from Razmande rather than proactive play from Amber Team Period.
Yeah, it's definitely right. That Su-27M nearly made the hero play, actually. It nearly took out a Challenger 2 and shot down a Jaguar. In the bottom side, we almost saw an M3A2 Bradley take out a T-72BU, which was quite interesting. But we do have quite a few heavy tanks on the left side of Delta now for Amber T. He's got the Twadi, he's got the Moderna, he's got a Wilk there. Got a couple of Wilks, actually. And we do now have the Smirch coming in. It's like as soon as they know they're losing, they bring in a Smirch. It's kind of a strange choice of unit. Why? I mean, they did just take out a Trap Rapier FSA, but that's all they're going to get. There's a HQ section in the backside of Delta. That doesn't have to care about the Smirch at all. So there's no command sniping going to be happening there. And I guess they got a couple of kills with the Smirch, but again, was it worth it? No, I don't think it was.
Definitely not. I mean, when you look at the Smirch as a unit, it's 140 points. That's a massive investment. And, you know, by firing the missiles there, they're aiming for a CV snipe, because that's where a CV will generally sit. And I don't get why they just haven't, because they did the same thing in the town in Delta last game. Like, can't they realise that Razvan, they might have a HQ section, they might have an infantry CV, and that Smirch is completely useless. You know, if you're going to use it to try and knock onto these Challenger 2s, but either way, let's take a quick look, because these tanks are pushing in without any very good AA cover. I think this MiG-29 isn't really going to do too much.
The Moderna just took a massive hit from the Challenger 2 there. The Twadi is already lost 4 health. The Moderna's down to 1 health now. The last Challenger shot, oh, it missed. It actually missed. But these Challenger 2s are going to chase them down, I believe, because the Twadi's just got an optical failure. The Moderna's finally going to get taken out. And the Wilk coming in there to force back those Challenger 2s into their tree lines. But that Moderna going down, that's just not good at all. But when you think about that Smirch, going back to the Smirch, 140 points, invest that in Moat Schutzen, put them in front of those tanks. You could seriously do a lot of damage in Delta if you really covered those tanks properly. They do have like the ROMs coming up finally to support those against any anti-air or any air attacks, but I mean, it's just so shoddily done. Those BMP ones would have been there in time as well, from the same time that they built or they made this Smirch. But Razman now moving a Leopard AS1 into the right side of Gulf, going to be neutralizing that. There is quite a heavy a presence of Putin's forces there. Spetsnaz squad, a VDV-90 squad, but they are very low on numbers, so it's going to be mainly down to these Skrezets, and there's a Challenger 1 Mark III and a command tank there, so not much those APCs are going to really do.
I think this game has just been very similar to the last one. I mean, well, even less, even kind of more one-sided in a way, because last game we saw some amazing, decisive, sort of strategic plays, but this game has just been them losing individually really badly, really poorly, and you know, I feel pretty bad for them in a way, because you know, they've proven that they're not a bad team. We've seen them, but these games are making them look pretty poor, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just such a shame that it's sort of almost lost in this way. +3 income lead for Nandemann at the moment, and RKKA have no points on the board. These 8 1,000 kilogram bombs coming in there from the F111Cs, gonna do a nice amount of damage. Did both of those get out alive as well?
I think just one.
Oh, okay. So
it's about sending a message.
Yeah. The Challenger Marksman going to pick off the last of the Moat Schutzen, and the T-72 M2 will fight on. But there's just so much devastation in this bottom side after Putin's forces fell apart. And now what's going to happen is the rest of the units have been cleaned up. You saw like a massive smoke wall there that he made with that HS-30. It was such a good smoke wall, and he just used it to move forwards a lot of units, clean out all of these forests, and now this UAZ is completely cornered. As soon as that dies, it's going to be a +3 lead again for Nandemann, since I believe in the top side at Echo, the Buratino did manage to clean out the HQ section that was capturing that. So we do see a Smirch coming in over the Leopard AS1. Yak 141 going to be engaging the F-16, take each other down, and the Stormers will finally kill off the UAZ. So things coming to an end, I believe. My 24Ds pushing up. They're probably going to get taken down by the SAS and the Hachi Nanashiki. And there's also Crotal moving up behind, Track Rapier there as well. Once those get into line of sight, they're going to do a lot of damage in the centre. There's a Trap Rapier FSA, but these Mi-24Ds is just a desperation play now. They're trying to pick off some CVs, I think, to try and make a difference. But there's just not enough left on the map for RKKA.
I mean, we just see this Buratino come in, and I feel they should have used that earlier. Why were they using a Smirch in Delta? They could have brought Brotino in, stunned those Challenger 2s, and really made something of it, but instead they've opted to use it at the very end. They're going to lose their a tank to a Kahu. I think it was a M2 Wilk maybe, or a Twali.
I tell
We
you
do see
what,
these MI-24Ds
I'm
coming
surprised
in,
those MI-24Ds managed to just fly all the way through the middle there and then kill the command at Bravo. But it's too late.
It's way too
Nandemann
late.
have hit the 500 points. And after 34 minutes and 3 seconds, Nandemann take the second game and the semi-final from RKKA and are the victors, who will go on to the final of the first VulcanHDGaming Wargame Dragon Invitational. So, really, really awesome game. What did you take from that, Val?
Well, I think it was, again, it was just micro problems. So Putin and Amber T played the map in exactly the same way, to quite an extent, as Razman and Nande did. They sent most of Putin's stuff to the bottom side, just as Nande sent most of his stuff to the bottom side. Then Amber T tried to face up against Razman in the top 2 sectors. But that's all well and good until you just get utterly out-microed. And it sounds a bit harsh to say, but look at the KD. I mean, Nande did throw a lot of units away with his motorized deck, because that's part of the part and parcel, is pushing with a large amount of infantry and transports that die. But especially in the middle, Amber T, just those 3 T-72S, 372, I can't even speak, 3 T-72Ss got absolutely massacred. He kept them in a 3-stack, and
Yeah, they just got picked apart.
Again, it's just really, that's just not the way to play. And against a player like Razman as well, someone who's, I think, is he rank 3 at the moment? Or I think he might be rank 3. You can't play at that level. You can't have 3 stacks of tanks like that and expect to do well. And it's pretty tragic, because Putin and Amber T have looked pretty good through a lot of their games, and then these two have just been very one-sided.
Yeah, so just those kills and losses, I think, really like telling the story once again. Nandemann picked apart RKKA, and that's basically what happened in this game. It was just a series of small skirmishes that led up to a huge lead on the map, and then it gave plenty of time for Nandemann to just be like, hey, we need some commands now, so let's bring in those. No punishment at all, we can sacrifice 300 points on those, that's fine. And that's basically won them the game. So, yep, Nandemann are moving on to the final. RKKA, commiserations.